Are the Straw Hat Pirates actually strong enough to be a Yonko crew, or is it only the top 3 or 4 members that are able to compete with the other top pirate crews in One Piece? Because to me, at least strength-wise, the Straw Hats don't feel Yonko level. Now in this video, I'm going to go over everything that makes a Yonko crew, and it's not just all about power and strength. But first, I want to go over the strength portion, because it is a big portion of it. First is that only 4 of the 10 main crew members know how to use Haki effectively. Luffy has advanced Haki of all types. Zoro has unlocked all 3 types of Haki as well. Sanji has both armament and observation. And then we know Jinbei can use both observation and armament too. Everyone else though, where are they at? Before you comment about Usopp unlocking observation, I know, but when does he ever use it? He doesn't even know he has it. He just thinks something weird happened to him at that point. Like Usopp unlocking observation in real life was a decade ago. That was half my lifespan almost. 10 years ago in real time, Usopp unlocked observation Haki, and it hasn't even been briefly mentioned ever since. So honestly, I don't even count it at this point because Usopp doesn't even know he has it. And don't even get me started on Robin. Oh my goodness. She spent 2 full years with the revolutionaries. You think she'd come back with some basic Haki at least, right? Like observation, armament, something. But no. Koala taught her Fishman karate, and Dragon apparently just said, she's good. Yeah, Dragon, the most wanted man in the world, didn't think it was gonna be nice to teach one of his son's crewmates some Haki. I mean, come on. This is one that really gets me riled up because the revolutionaries are very strong, and Robin spent 2 years with them. She spent more time with revolutionaries than she did with Luffy so far in the story. I know it's crazy to think about, but that's actually true. And also, Robin spent her entire childhood running away from people. She had to always watch her back, do all this sort of stuff because people were trying to backstab her, claim the bounty on her. You're telling me throughout all that time she was on the run, she never somehow got observation Haki or something? It just doesn't make sense. That's the biggest plot hole, is Robin not having Haki. Brooke and Frankie at least have a little bit of a better excuse. I mean, Frankie did come back very physically enhanced from the time skip. He basically tripled in size compared to his pre-time skip form. However, he still had absolutely zero knowledge of what Haki was as they're going into the new world. Brooke has his soul stuff going on, and he clutches up every now and again. I'll give him that, but still zero Haki from him. And don't get me wrong, I like Brooke's character, but I think Haki is almost like a baseline requirement when you become a Yonko crew, especially you're one of the top 4 pirate crews in the entire One Piece verse, and 4 of your 10 members, not even 50%, have a decent form of Haki. It's hard for me to imagine them throwing hands with Big Mom and Kaido's crew with only a couple of them having Haki, and they managed to do it somehow. They had a ton of help with, the battle on Onigashima. But the part about the whole Haki thing that really gets me is that in Dressrosa, when a few random Marines show up to help Fujitora and Zoro and Tanjiro fight the birdcage or try to push it back, these random Marines, these no-name Marines, are able to use armament Haki and try to help do it. If these random Marines can figure out Haki, I think some of the Straw Hats can, with the amount of fighting they've done. At least the mid-level Straw Hats, so Frankie, Brooke, Robin, need to get Haki. The other ones, like Chopper and Nami, I can understand. They are definitely on the lower end of the crew, there's no question about it, and I don't think everybody needs Haki, and those 2 especially just aren't big for their fighting. That's not really their role on the crew. But still, we are in the new world now, so I just personally think more of the Straw Hats should have Haki by now, especially with the opponents they've faced. I'm not going to spoil any manga things that have happened yet, but coming up in Egghead, some crazy things happen. Things are going down on Elbaf, which is coming up after Egghead. For a crew at this level, some of these characters got to be getting buffed sometime soon. Please. It honestly surprises me we haven't had one of those episodes where they're just on the sunny chilling for a day or 2 or whatever, and Sanji doesn't go out and say, you know what, maybe it's important that we teach some of these guys how to use Haki, or maybe train them a little bit so then hopefully they can figure out how to use armament at some point. But nah, no training, no nothing. Nobody's even really mentioned Haki to one another on the Straw Hats. They've just seen Luffy use it, they've seen Zoro use it, and they just think wow, these guys are really strong. I definitely can't use that. It's just the way I think about it is I compare the Straw Hats strength-wise to the likes of the other Yonkos, Blackbeard and Shanks specifically. The top of the list between those crews seems pretty even, the top 4 of the Straw Hats, but then you start going down the list and those matchups seem to get pretty lopsided. Will the advantages that Blackbeard and Shanks have on the Straw Hats be more than enough to take them down. It kind of seems like it. I mean, I know we don't know too much about either of those crews yet, and I want to give credit where credit's due. Like Frankie, Robin, Nami, and even Usopp kind of did take down a Toby Roppo of Kaido's crew all by themselves, and that was without Haki, and those guys were pretty strong. So you got to give credit where credit's due. I guess they don't need Haki to fight everyone, so they're clearly strong. I think Frankie's very underrated in the strength category. I'm not trying to call them weak. I just really think like they should at least have some Haki. Like that seems like something that is very prominent in the new world, and only 4 of the crew members have it. Now here's where I get into everything else that makes up a Yonko crew, and if the Straw Hats are actually, you know, worthy of being an Emperor of the Sea, because Haki is not everything. Of course, there are many attributes that go into making a great pirate. There are some counter arguments to this that I think make great points, and I agree with a few of them. The first counter argument, though, is definitely my least favorite, and it's that the Straw Hats are not a crew. They're a family, so that's supposed to explain why they don't have Haki. Like, okay, they can still be a family and not choose to sail the seas trying to get their captain to become the pirate king. Like, if you just want to be a family, then maybe don't become an Emperor of the Sea. I feel like that would probably be something that you don't do. But like every coin, there are 2 sides, and you can make arguments that are very convincing that the Straw Hats are indeed a Yonko crew, because they were able to take down not 1 but 2 emperors in Wano on the Onigashima battle. Now they did have a lot of help to do that with an ex-Whitebeard top commander. You had Law, Kid, both of their crews, all of the Wano soldiers, the 9 samurai. I mean, there was a lot of people helping the Straw Hats out, but it's not even just that. You can argue the Straw Hats are a Yonko crew because they possibly have the #1 navigator in the world, potentially the #1 doctor in the world as well, with Chopper, a poneglyph reader, the one and only Robin, and then also potentially like a top 3 sniper in all of One Piece with Usopp. And finally, you can't forget about the #1 shipwright is most likely Frankie, and he's also on the Straw Hat Pirates. So if you're going by this, they are definitely up there in the rankings, but that's only in their specific roles, and most of the time the roles don't always come down to what it means in the heat of a battle. Like who's winning a fight, it's not really going to come down to like who's the better shipwright. It's going to come down to who's the strongest. So I'm just trying to throw out all the information out there in this debate of whether or not they're truly strong enough to be Emperor of the Sea level. And as always, I'm curious on your thoughts in this discussion. I don't think the Straw Hats are weak and undeserving of that title of being a Yonko. It just seems like a little bit of a plot hole to me that so few of them have Haki and are actually able to use it effectively. And like I said, being an Emperor isn't just about how strong your crew is. It's definitely a major big part of it. But being an Emperor of the Sea is also about influence. The territory you have, the allies you've made, your grand fleet. Cross Guild is a great example because they prioritize some other aspects of pirating besides just brute strength. Like even their top 3 are not necessarily monsters in terms of fighting. We all know Mihawk is the strongest swordsman, and he's definitely carrying his weight on the fighting side of things in Cross Guild because Crocodile lost to base level Luffy. I'm sure he's a little bit stronger now. And then Buggy, we all know, is not much of a fighter. I do think he's like hiding a few tricks up his sleeve. He has a pretty good devil fruit too when it comes to fighting. But overall, when it comes to Cross Guild, Mihawk is like a one-man army. But what they do have is a reputation that Buggy has built up. They have territory, and most importantly, they have instilled fear inside of the world government. Part of that is also because of their new marine bounty system. They put bounties on the Marines, some pirates, and they're paying out pretty big prizes for people who bring in the heads or the bodies of Marines. We even see Blackbeard pirates on Hachinosu Island talking about getting Kobe's bounty. So when you think about influence, Luffy is right up there with the rest of these Yonkos. He has influenced a lot of different countries and a lot of people around the world. I mean, every single island the Straw Hats go to, Luffy's gaining new friends. He's freed several different islands from oppression and kind of acted as a savior for them, like Alabasta, Dressrosa, even Fishman Island a little bit, and has almost just been the warrior of liberation, I guess you could say. So this has given him a ton of influence across the Grand Line, the New World, and even more places around the world. His official territories are Wano and Fishman Island, but unofficially, I would include Alabasta, Dressrosa, Zoe, Water 7, Skypiea, maybe even Amazon Lily as Luffy's territory. Luffy is known worldwide by almost everyone because he's one of the 4 emperors and because his bounty poster has been up on the walls of every city for a couple couple of years now, but his influence is even stronger because he has actually done something in a lot of these different countries and islands. Because of that, he's left long-lasting impacts that have really helped him rise to power. Luffy even has strong underlings in his grand fleet like Bartolomeo, Cavendish, and Leo, who are captains of their own pirate crews, and they're all spreading the gospel of the Straw Hat Pirates around the world too. So what I'm getting at is that in terms of influence, Luffy is right up there with these other Yonko guys, and maybe even above some of them. It's really just the raw strength category that might not allow him to match up right now against Shanks and Blackbeard, and I don't think he'll ever really fight Shanks, but you never know what Oda is cooking up in the One Piece story, so you gotta compare them at the least. We've seen the flashbacks of Roger and Whitebeard. They would often clash with each other just kind of for the fun of it, so I can't help but compare Luffy to the other Emperors of the Sea, and if they were to clash, what would happen? What would be the result? Could Luffy's crew actually stand up to these other ones like Blackbeard and Shanks? You can argue yes, because they did defeat Kaido, but like I said earlier, they had a lot of help to do that. Kaido's not going down without Zoro, Killer, Kid, Law's help, and even the samurai helping him out by weakening them a little bit. So straight crew for crew, I'm not sure. That's all I'm trying to get at here. And another thing to consider is just how heavily the crew leans on Luffy every single arc. Like, he is the main character, but they lean on him almost too much for his strength. When things hit the fan, it's almost always Luffy who steps in to fight the final boss and carry the emotional weight of the arc. And yes, he's the captain. That's part of the role of being captain, but compare that to other Emperor crews where we see multiple commanders hold their own weight in high-stake fights. Katakuri, King, Marco, Shiryu, these guys can hold their own, and I guess you can say Zoro and Sanji can hold their own too, but I'm just trying to be the devil's advocate and say, like, if Luffy goes down in a fight, is the rest of the crew gonna be able to hold their own and maybe, you know, pull through and win the fight for Luffy, like finally have his back for once when he always has everyone else's back? I think Zoro, Sanji, and Jinbei could, but the rest, it would be shaky. So after breaking all of that down, we have the lack of hockey amongst some of the crew members, the imbalance of strength from the top to bottom of the Straw Hat Pirates, the top 4 being way stronger than the bottom 6. You might think I'm trying to say the Straw Hats do not deserve to be an Emperor of the Sea, but that's not the case, because when you do zoom out of just the strength category, the Straw Hats check every single other box when it comes to being a Yonko crew. They've already defeated Emperors. They have a world-class navigator, doctor, sniper, shipwright, poneglyph reader. They have tons of influence across the world, different territories inside of the New World. And also, they have Luffy, one of the strongest people probably ever in the One Piece verse already. So sure, not everyone on the crew needs to master hockey for them to be considered an Emperor of the Sea. There's just kind of a pretty steep power gap between the top and the bottom of the crew. However, you can argue that that's what makes the Straw Hat Pirates unique. So yes, I do think the Straw Hat Pirates are worthy of their Yonko title, but that's all I got. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.